The Explore New England podcast.
All right, everyone, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Explore New England podcast. I am, of course, Vinny.
And I'm Heather.
And we come to you on a rainy day in New England, just a day before Thanksgiving 2019. I gotta tell you, I'm excited.
I can't wait.
I love Thanksgiving. This is my favorite time of the year.
Yeah, it's the kickoff to the holiday season. We have Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, or whatever it is that you and your family celebrate. So it's a really exciting couple of months coming up.
Thanksgiving's definitely my favorite time of the year. I love the whole build up to Thanksgiving, and then on the actual day, I love the togetherness that you have with your family and just being together. I love that about Thanksgiving.
And this year in particular, I am extremely excited for Thanksgiving. This is the first time in over 14 years that I haven't actually worked in retail. So usually Thanksgivings for me, I got to enjoy them, but I always had to cut them short. I usually had to work the Midnight Madness, so I would have to be in at work at 11:30 at night on Thanksgiving. So this year in particular is so exciting. I get to spend full time both with your family, my family, like we're all going to be together. It's going to be really nice to enjoy a full Thanksgiving and not have to cut it short because I have to try to get like a few hours of sleep beforehand.
Yeah, that was horrible. You used to have to go in at midnight on Thanksgiving night. That's horrible. I mean...
Yeah, my whole day would be cut short. You know, we would usually eat and then by like 2 o'clock I would have to say goodbyes and then, you know, come home, get ready for the long night. I would usually work like 16-hour shifts. So I would have to try to get a couple hours of sleep before, get all my stuff ready, and then the traffic there, I'd have to leave at like 10:30 at night on Thanksgiving to make it to work. So
Oh, that's horrible.
yeah, this is the first year, so I'm extremely happy for more than one reason, but that one in particular is a huge deal for me. So I'm also very excited to actually just enjoy a food coma this year because normally after I eat, I'm like, okay, that's it, it's done. But this year in particular, it's really exciting because we're going to be eating with my family. And it works out really well. My family usually eats earlier in the day at around like 1 or 2. And then your family eats later on, like 4 or 5 is how you usually do it.
Yeah.
So it works out perfect. We get to eat a meal. Then we take a little break, enjoy the food coma. And then we're going to be visiting your family and having dinner with your family. So 2 Thanksgiving dinners this year. But this is a year that I'm actually going to be able to thoroughly take everything in and enjoy it and not have to worry about going to work right after and being exhausted. So it means a lot to me this year. I'm very, very, very excited to take it all in and enjoy it. There is going to be a lot of food this Thanksgiving.
This year I'm actually a little bit bummed out because my mother is not going to be making her very delicious lasagna that she's been making since I was born. And the reason for that is because she's not in the best of health, so she can't really cook that much food on Thanksgiving anymore. But the good thing is that Heather actually took over the recipe. So we might not get it on Thanksgiving, but we're going to get it the week of Thanksgiving.
Most likely, yeah. I think I'm going to make it.
All right, good.
It's nice now. It's a treat. We can have it kind of whenever we want. You know, it was really the main part of the recipe was the sauce. It's her famous sauce. And without that, you can't make the lasagna because it just won't taste the same.
It ought to be famous, I'll tell you that much.
It is famous. I'm telling you, it is so good. So I'm so grateful that she has passed all of her recipes on to me. I've been so excited every time I, ask her for a new recipe. I can't wait to try it out. So I think we've got like 5 or 6 of her recipes down. So it's really good because I make them on rotation during the week. And we eat quite well. Let me tell you that she is an amazing cook. So I'm really lucky that she gave me her recipes. We actually have some Sunday sauce cooking up now. So I think that we're going to see some lasagna in your future. And the reason why I call it Sunday sauce is we affectionately named it Mama Harriet's Sunday sauce. So we wrote it in our recipe book as that. So whenever I make it, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It's Sunday sauce.
Actually, I think this year, in 2019, what I'm most thankful for is you getting my mother's recipes.
Aww.
I think that's what I'm going to be thankful for this year, for sure.
Yeah, it's really nice. I feel really appreciative that I can carry on, all these recipes and that you still get to eat all of her good cooking. I took it over.
And she just gave you the recipes for the sugar cookies and what else?
The anisette cookies. I'm so excited. I just got those recipes from her the other day, so those are going to come in handy for Christmas time. I'm going to be making some Christmas sugar cookies and then the famous anisette cookies. It's going to be smelling good in this house.
So we're both really, really excited for Thanksgiving this year and the holidays coming up.
And also, this is pretty interesting too. Did you know that the first Thanksgiving feast, it happened in 1621?
Wow, no, actually I didn't even know that.
I'm sure you knew like the story of it, but the exact date of it.
Yeah, the story I knew, yeah, not the date.
Yeah, it happened in October of 1621. It happened between the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims, and it was known as the first Thanksgiving feast.
Right in this area, New England.
It was really cool. What it was a first harvest for them in the New World that was a successful harvest.
Mm-hmm.
So they got together and they celebrated it. And what I find really funny is, our traditional Thanksgiving dinners now are surrounded around turkeys and mashed potatoes and stuffing and gravy. But if you actually look back in history, their first dinner that they sat down and ate most likely wouldn't have had turkey. It was something that the Wampanoags would eat, and they would hunt wild turkeys, but it wouldn't have been like the main focus of their Thanksgiving
Really?
dinner.
I always thought that they had
Yeah, it was something that,
turkeys. Wow.
came about in the future. But for them, when they sat down, the main things that they ate was they had venison, ham, they had lobster, which of course is absolute New England. Wouldn't expect that without lobster, even though we don't sit down to lobster dinners now for Thanksgiving. No. That would have been the highlight of theirs.
Water bugs.
Yeah, water bugs. Yeah, we're not seafood lovers.
Not at all.
Not seafood lovers.
Not at all.
They had berries, fruit, pumpkin, and squash. So it's pretty interesting.
Wow, that is
A
interesting.
little different than our traditional dinner that we sit down for.
Still good food, but not what we call Thanksgiving today.
Yeah, I think I would have passed on a lot of that. Lobster,
yeah, me too.
The venison, the ham. Yeah, that would have been good. Fruit and pumpkin, and clams as well. Yeah.
And Thanksgiving wasn't even declared an actual holiday until 1863 by President Abraham Lincoln. And an exact quote from President Abraham Lincoln, he called it a national day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, that is, isn't it?
I also have another really interesting fact that I'm sure some people know, but I don't know if everyone knows it. Do you know that Thanksgiving was actually only possible due to disease?
No, I didn't know that.
Most likely smallpox. Yeah, what actually happened was 10 years before the Mayflower arrived, settlers, they had sailed up the East Coast, but they found it extremely well populated. So they decided that it would make it too hard for them to settle and successfully farm. Mm-hmm. So then you want to fast forward 10 years later, when the Mayflower arrived, they found that unfortunately most of the Wampanoag population had been reduced severely by disease, most likely smallpox.
No kidding, wow.
So it was a whole different circumstance now because the Wampanoag, they looked at the Pilgrims as potential allies as well as traitors. Mm-hmm. So they accepted them in, whereas it would have been a whole different situation if most of their population hadn't been, desiccated by smallpox disease.
Right.
So it really made an interesting fact that history, again, from one thing could have been so different.
Yeah, it could have been a lot different again. Wow, so there's actually a good chance that Thanksgiving would not have even come to fruition, if it wasn't for these certain little details of history.
Yeah, it's a little bit grim if you think about it, because, in short, it's basically, if it wasn't for smallpox, Thanksgiving wouldn't have come to be. So it's a really interesting fact that I don't think most people know. It's a sad fact, of course, but interesting in history.
Well, just like anything, sometimes good things come out of the bad. So I think we can agree on that. In certain aspects, though, after Thanksgiving, the Native Americans got into a lot of battles, a lot of bloody battles.
Over land disputes.
Over land disputes, yeah, exactly. So
when you try to think back on Thanksgiving and what we're celebrating, you want to remember that there was a time when there was peace, and, the Wampanoags had taught the Pilgrims how to farm, and it was really a celebration of them coming together for their first successful harvest that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Wampanoags. Right. So there was that short time in history where there was peace and there was, harmony between the two. And that's what we have to try to remember, because further down the line, it's very sad, the history. We don't really want to, go too much into detail. I'm sure most people know about many of the bloody battles that happened.
Right.
So when we think of Thanksgiving, we'd like to think back on way back to the beginning when it first started, the very first Thanksgiving feast.
And that's the essence of Thanksgiving and what it's all about. So definitely remember, what Thanksgiving was originally meant to be.
A bringing together of people, a gathering.
Right, exactly.
To celebrate.
Wow, that's amazing history right there. So all in all, we just want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. Make sure you're safe, especially if you're traveling around on Thanksgiving.
Make sure you're very appreciative of your loved ones.
Exactly.
Look around and just be thankful for everything you have. This year, I also want to give a shout out to all the retail workers out there working Black Friday. I know how hard it is, but let me tell you, you will make it through. Mm-hmm. Lots of coffee, sleep when you can, but shout out to you guys. You're the ones out there doing all that really hard work, and we appreciate you very much. I wish all the shoppers the best of luck, that you get the best sales out there. Please keep in mind that, the people working behind the counters, they had to take time away from their families to be here. They're tired as well. So just, have patience. Everyone remember the essence of Thanksgiving, which is to be thankful for everything and everyone that we have, and try to carry that on to other things as well.
Pay it forward, basically.
Pay it forward, yeah. Make sure you have respect and everyone has a good time, and it should be fun. So good luck to all the Black Friday shoppers and the workers.
And happy Thanksgiving to all. We appreciate your support, and make sure you're safe out there. So today's podcast, we're going to be focusing on the Rutland Prison Camp, which is in Rutland, Massachusetts. Heather and I actually went there about a year ago to the Rutland Prison Camp, and it was an amazing place, wouldn't you say?
It really was, and we had so much fun exploring it. We also had a lot of mishaps when we went there, so we're kind of excited to tell you about those. That's going to be really fun.
A lot of mishaps, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was fun, though. It was definitely fun.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot to talk about in today's episode about the Rutland Prison Camp. Some good and some bad.
So the Rutland Prison Camp, on our episode that we did there, we went a lot more into the history about it. So if you want to right now, you can pause this podcast. You can go back and watch that video, or you can watch it after. But if you want more of a detailed history, for just a quick brief one, it was built in 1903. And it didn't have any real hardened criminals there. It was mainly people like who were caught drunk and nothing serious. And what's really interesting about this is it was actually a working prison camp. Mm-hmm. So it was on farmland. So all of the prisoners would do all of the work on the farm. So when you go there now, there's not a whole lot left on the property, but they actually have the root cellar. And that's where they had kept all the vegetables and everything. Yeah,
they have the root cellar. I think they also have the foundation of the hospital, which we didn't actually have a chance to find because it was in the middle of summer, so a lot was overgrown there.
And then they have solitary confinement. And then they had, I believe you could see somewhat what was left of the dairy farm, which we did find a little bit of it. There's not a whole lot left on that. And then there was one other building there as well. And the day that we decided to go, it was a nice day. It was just really hot, I remember. It was
it was like in the 90s.
Yeah, it was a really warm day. So we went, and luckily we had brought my Jeep because it's all dirt roads. When you go in there, there's no actual paved roads. It's all dirt roads. It's kind of bumpy. So we had my Jeep, which unfortunately I had to retire her last year. I was very devastated. We had to put her to rest.
She went to the car graveyard.
And yes, I cried my eyes out.
She did.
Anyone who has a car that they hold near and dear, you know how sad that is. It's like saying goodbye to a member of your family.
It is.
Every time I watch that video, I think that was close to one of the last times we got to take that car, my Jeep, on an adventure. So just know that holds near and dear to my heart. May she rest in the sweetest peace. Anyways, back
pieces.
Oh, God, that's terrible. My poor Jeep.
Sorry.
It's okay. I've made peace with it. So the day that we went, we had my Jeep. And so luckily we were all set with that. The only bad thing is, first thing starting off this, my Jeep didn't have AC, which never really bothered me much, but for you, you're very sensitive to the heat.
I'm very sensitive. So to start off the day, because we got there really early, well, we left the house very early. So as soon as we left the house, it would already put me in a mood because the humidity and the heat was just affecting me. And like Heather said, I'm very sensitive to it, and it puts me right into a bad mood immediately. So that kind of set the pace.
How the day was going to carry on.
Exactly.
So when we got there, luckily it was no problem. We were able to find it seamlessly. We followed the directions. And it's pretty easy once you get in there because you can see they're just standing up buildings. They're kind of, some of them are crumbling, but they're in pretty decent shape.
Yeah, I think the first building that you see when you go in there, I think, is the actual prison or the prison cells.
What's left of it, yeah. It's the solitary confinement cells they have left. And everything was going seamlessly. You know, we started filming and exploring around. And then when we got to the solitary confinement, when we were walking around, you had mentioned it as well, that you thought this place absolutely has to have activity.
Yeah, activity as far as paranormal activity. And because you always know that when you watch any show on TV, a lot of the times when they go to old prisons or old mental institutions, that's where they seem to have the most activity going on. When we got to the prison camp and we saw the solitary confinement, obviously going through our minds was, should we do an investigation? Or you know, should we just explore the area?
Yeah, and at the time, we didn't have any of our equipment with us because we weren't really planning on doing anything paranormal.
No, we did have the EVP recorder with us, though. That's the only piece of equipment that we had. But again, we weren't planning on doing any paranormal investigating there. We were just going to do some exploration.
But the more we talked about it as we were walking through the solitary confinements, we're like, this place probably has a lot of residual energy left. And residual is a really interesting thing. Basically what happens is a place that holds a lot of emotion can sometimes, they say, it like soaks up the emotion.
The bricks.
The stone can soak up the emotion or even just the tension in the atmosphere.
Right.
And it can be released back into it at any time. So that doesn't particularly mean it's an active spirit there that's haunting the place. It could just be energy that's left over from when a heightened situation happened. And especially in the solitary confinement, if you see in our video, those cells were extremely tiny. Mm-hmm. They barely gave you enough room to turn around. There was no room to pace around or anything.
I don't even know how they had enough room to fit a bed or a cot in there. to be honest with you, because, again, it was so small. I'm not sure the exact measurements of the cell, but literally you had no room to walk around in there.
No, and if they did put a bed in there, that's it. You wouldn't even have had room to move around besides that. So who knows if they even had beds in there.
They might have not have.
Could have just been sleeping on the dirt. So
or chained them to the floor or something.
yeah,
Who knows?
that's a possibility as well. So places like that hold a lot of energy because people are very hyped up during that time. So we believed, I really thought that that place probably had a lot of residual energy. And it could be active hauntings as well. You don't know. I wouldn't feel like a spirit would want to hang around an area like that.
No.
But sometimes if they're stuck, because I don't know really if there was any deaths there that happened.
I'm sure there was. Out of the whole history of it, I'm sure there was, who knows, maybe.
I think a lot of the deaths, if they did occur there, had to do with tuberculosis. Because at the time, this is when tuberculosis was very heightened. That's why they actually built the hospital, their own tuberculosis hospital on site.
Right.
So honestly, probably a lot of people did succumb to tuberculosis on that property.
Yeah, and again, like I was going to say, maybe even taking their own life. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a possibility. So all in all, we felt like it was something that would add up to a place that would have paranormal activity.
Right.
So the EVP that we actually captured, do you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, so after we were there for a little bit, we ended up going over to the root cellar, and we were going to do some exploring in there. But for some reason, something just kept pulling me back to the solitary confinement. So I told Heather, I said, I'll be right back. I'm going to go take the EVP recorder, and I'm just going to go into one of the cells, and I'm just going to ask a question real quick. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Now, I had no idea that we were actually going to capture something spine-tingling, to be honest with you. I was very, very freaked out by it when we went back home later on and listened to what we had captured.
Yeah, it wasn't until later that night after we had gotten home you listened back to it and you heard it, and we both were just shocked by what we heard. I'm actually glad maybe that we didn't hear it in the time because, I don't know, we either would have been not wanting to leave that spot and we would have spent our whole time there and we might not have explored as much of the rest of the prison because we would have been so intrigued that we got something.
That's true.
That I think that it would have taken away from the other parts of the investigation. So I think it was meant for us to hear it after we got home.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So I had gone back into one of the prison cells, and again, the prison cell was very, very small, so I couldn't really walk around in there. So I had just walked through the door of the prison cell, and I stood there, and I took the EVP recorder, and I said what I say all the time. Well, I asked, is there any spirits here that want to speak to me? I let the recorder go for a couple of seconds, I hit stop, and then I rejoined Heather at the root cellar. Now, just to fast forward to later that evening when we got home, which we didn't get home until about 7, 8 o'clock at night, I listened back to the EVP recording that we got. Again, it was very, very, very spooky. When I listened back to it, after I asked the question, is there anyone here that wants to speak to us? Get out was the response that we got. It was clear as day, Class A EVP, get out. And not only that, if that wasn't spooky enough, it sounded like, I can't explain it, but it sounded like it came from an old man from that era. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it really does. The way you can hear it, like the tone and the depth and everything too. Like
exactly.
He sounded like he had a raspy voice.
Sounded like he had a raspy voice. It said, get out. Like, get out. This is where I am. I don't want to be here, but I sure as hell don't want you here with me. That was basically what it sounded like to me. Thank God, as Heather said, we didn't listen to it right then and there, because we would have been intrigued to do more investigating, and if the spirits didn't want us there, who knows what would have happened. So you can definitely go check that out on the video where the spirit says get out. You can hear it clear as day. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, you're going to want to listen to it. It was a Class A EVP, and I think you're going to be intrigued by it. I know we were.
Definitely.
So going back to some of the mishaps that we had on this investigation, so you already heard about the AC. One of the other main problems that we had were the bugs.
Oh, yeah.
It was absolutely horrendous there. When I say I've never seen more mosquitoes in my life, I'm serious. I've never seen more mosquitoes.
Now, I would imagine in certain areas of towns and in certain states, I would imagine that they spray the woods. I guess, in my thinking, I would say that the government or somebody would spray the woods for ticks and mosquitoes and whatever other kind of flies are out there. But this particular place, I don't know if it had been sprayed before or not, but the bugs were absolutely out of control. There was mosquitoes, flies of all different types, horse flies, which if you've ever been bitten by a horse fly, you know how bad they can be.
Yeah, and we've explored a lot in the woods, so it's not like we're not familiar with just regular, run-of-the-mill bugs. Like, we've dealt with that before. We usually bring bug spray too, and of course on this one, we forgot to bring the bug spray.
Yeah, of course.
Thank goodness. All I can say is that this was before the Triple E scare, because that was all this summer and this was last summer. I mean, if that had been the case, I think as soon as we had pulled up, we would have probably left.
Yeah, it was just outrageous. I've never seen so many insects in one spot before. And it wasn't even just like you kind of swat them away and they kind of leave you alone. These bugs literally attacked you. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, it was really insane. We got covered in bites. I can't even count how many we got. And I remember, if you watch the video, we actually decided to go into the drainage pipe. Really cool. We just wanted to make sure that we showed it, but oh my goodness. I know you can kind of see it in one of the scenes where there's like a hole and it lights up. There's about 5,000 mosquitoes just buzzing around.
Mm-hmm.
And also that drainage tunnel, let me tell you, it made us question the last time we got a tetanus shot, which we both figured out that we need to get boosters on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was hazardous down there, to say the least. But I think it was after we came out of there was when it was the worst. I think you said you started to feel like numb.
I started to feel numb, yeah. One of my legs went numb, basically. I was itching all over the place. I had bumps all over me, all over my arms, all over my neck, even like on my stomach, on my back. They went through my shirt. Again, these were not ordinary bugs. These were like...
What do you say, mutant mosquitoes?
Mutant mosquitoes and mutant insects. I mean, it sounds funny, but, you know, I'm starting to wonder what was in those woods because it was, again, they attacked us. It wasn't just, you know, you swat them away and then they go away. They harassed us continuously the entire time we were there.
Yeah, it was really awful. And then also the tick situation was really bad. I remember at one point we were walking in the woods and we were coming out. I found 2 ticks on my pant leg. And I said, oh no, we have to be really careful to make sure that we check for ticks.
And we did.
And we did. And later that night, so this was just quick to bring you back, after we had gotten home, I actually took a shower. We took all of our clothes, threw them in the washing machine right away. Took a shower, washed my hair, and I was cooking dinner. And I actually felt something crawling. It was a tick. And it was like crawling up my neck. And I'm thinking, how in the world did that thing still attach to me? I took a shower and everything. I remember screaming for you.
Yeah, I was in the bedroom, and all of a sudden, I think I was listening to my headphones or whatever, but you screamed loud enough to where I would hear you. And I came flying out of the bedroom, down the hall, into the kitchen, and you're like, there's ticks! There's ticks all over me! And what was it, 1 or 2 ticks?
I think it was only 1, but I was just freaking out that like there was more. It was like after I'd gotten that one off, I just felt like things crawling on me.
Yeah.
Like phantom legs. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. So luckily no tick bites as far as I know, but I did have 3 or 4 ticks actually crawling on me, but I was just lucky enough to catch them before they bit me.
Yeah, and I remember there was another time I didn't have a tick on me, but at some point we had gotten, you know, because we were in and out of the truck the entire time we were there, driving around on the dirt roads, and 1 or 2 times that I had gotten back into the truck, there was a tick crawling on the floorboard, you know, where the pedals were. I don't even know how I saw it, but thank God I did. I think there was a tick that was crawling on one of my shoelaces. I don't know, like, again, I don't know if the town sprays or whatnot, but if they did, then they need to get better chemicals, or I shouldn't say chemicals because that's even bad for the trees and everything, but I mean, whatever they do to ensure that the bugs don't get as bad as they do, they need to do something.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they sprayed in that area. It's not even really a common thing. We heard about it until this year when the Triple E was such a huge threat. That's when they started spraying. So it makes me believe that they weren't really spraying. I have to look into that to see, but I know in that area in particular, they definitely didn't spray. It was actually so bad that when we were driving down the dirt roads, now remember, I don't have AC in the Jeep. We couldn't even put the windows down to get a breeze because the bugs were just surrounding the car. And if we opened the window, we would have 10 mosquitoes, 10 flies, everything you can imagine flying into the Jeep. So we had to drive around with the windows up, and it was hot as could be, covered in mosquito bites.
No, I don't know whoever's listening to this, if any one of you have ever been to Rutland Prison Camp. Do any of you have the same stories? Were the bugs attacking you as bad as they were attacking us? Or did you wear bug spray or anything of that nature? Did you have the experience that we had with the bugs? Because I know it was a nightmare for us.
Yeah, I don't even know if bug spray would have worked. I mean, it might have tamed it a little bit, but...
Now, as we're telling you the story about the video, the timeline's going to jump back and forth. I remember it was toward the end of the day after we had explored the entire area, and we had found the cemetery, which was that had all the unmarked graves of the prisoners. Were they unmarked graves, or did they actually have names on them?
Well, they used to be, originally, they used to have, like, the wooden crosses.
Right.
And they actually recently replaced them with these really nice crosses.
Mm-hmm.
So now they all have crosses up in their area.
Yeah. But the cemetery is actually off-site from the actual prison camp. I think it's, down the road?
It is down the road, yeah, and it's behind an actual another cemetery. So you have to know that it's there because you'll just see a regular cemetery, and you have to follow a path down into the woods to get to the other part of it.
Heather actually found the cemetery with the unmarked graves before I did. I was on the end of the dirt road that goes to the cemetery, so I was like on the main road, but close to the cemetery. And she had gone down the dirt road.
Ran down the dirt road.
Ran down the dirt road.
Because the bugs were following me so bad.
Because, they were following her, they were attacking her. And I'll never forget this, she was coming toward me, yelling, and my eyes were bugging out of my head. I couldn't really hear her because she was coming from down the road. And as I see her running toward me, I just see this swarm of gnats, bugs, mosquitoes, flies. I barely saw her. I just saw like this black cloud around her of insects. So finally she got to me. She's like, I found the cemetery. We gotta go quick because the bugs are even worse here than they are in the prison camp. I was like, oh my god, here we go. I grabbed the camera. We went running down the dirt road into the cemetery. Now what's funny, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now actually looking back on it. If you go to watch the video, you'll actually see the camera. You'll see the camera shaking a little bit. We tried panning as fast as we could across the entire cemetery so the viewer can get a good look at the entire cemetery. The camera was shaking because the bugs were so bad. I literally couldn't stand still just to film and pan across the cemetery just one time. They were dive bombing me. Spiders were crawling on my neck. I don't even know where the spiders came from.
Yeah.
I don't remember walking through a spider web, but who knows? Maybe they had wings. That's how bad the bugs were at this place.
Yeah, so it's really funny. We went back and looked at the footage and we're like, oh, we're just going to have to use this little clip. We always try so hard to get really good shots. And this one, it was not happening. The clearest one that we got was the best one. And even that one was shaky. But we said, we have to use it, because we want to show you the plaque and the cemetery and everything. But that was a rare occurrence. That's never really happened to us before where we couldn't get a good shot because of the bugs.
Yeah, definitely. So it's pretty interesting. So like I said, go check the video out if you haven't seen it, the Rutland Prison Camp, and then see the end of the video when we're at the cemetery, and you'll definitely see the camera shake. Pretty funny story.
Another thing that happened with the bug bites is, I remember telling you that when we were in the drainage tunnel that you started to feel like numb.
Yes, I did.
So I remember at the time, this was you last summer, you were dealing with some health anxiety. And I remember when you told me that you started to feel numb, I could see you starting to get a little bit nervous. And I saw like you were getting more and more worked up about it. And I remember staying in my head. I didn't say it to you and I didn't say it out loud, but I said, this is going to end up in an emergency room visit. I just have a feeling that we're going to end up in the emergency room tonight. But I didn't say anything. As the day got on, progressively your bites truly did get worse and worse. Like you were covered from head to toe by the time
I've never been
home.
bitten that many times. I'm going to be completely honest. I had to have been bitten 50 to 75 times.
Yeah, easily, I would say.
Easily.
You were all swollen up. So we're jumping back and forth just to tell you the story, but we had gotten home that night. We had the whole tick incident where I found the tick, and we had already gotten back late. It was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So we got home, took showers, I found the tick. I had cooked dinner, we ate, and then I remember you saying, I really feel numb. Like, I'm really, really nervous. Like, I can't feel my legs. And we're like, oh no, like, this is not good. So we decided to take a visit to the emergency room.
I had gone to take my shower, and I was alright before I went in the shower. Like Heather said, I was feeling a little bit numb, whatever. It didn't hit me until I was in the shower, and I actually seen the bites all over me. That's when my panic set in, and that's when my anxiety really got bad. And I remember getting out of the shower, and again, this is after we had dinner, this is after we had listened to the EVP and everything, so this is after Heather had found the ticks on her.
So it was late at night.
So it was late at night. But at this time, I think it was about, 11 o'clock or something, 11:30?
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
So I had gotten out of the shower, and I said, we have to go to the hospital. I need to be checked out.
So, long story short, we ended up in the emergency room that night, as I had predicted beforehand, and luckily everything was fine. They said that, it was just you were having a reaction to the bug bites, but everything was fine. Take a Benadryl, you'll be okay. So that eased your mind a lot, luckily.
Yeah, it did. I remember asking the doctor if I was gonna pass away from the bites, and he was looking at my chart, flipping through the file, and he just kind of smirked and laughed, and so it kind of set me at ease. I felt a little bit better after that.
Yeah.
And the numbness actually, it stayed with me the whole night. And by the next morning, I felt better and better, and the bug bites turned into just itching really bad and stuff like that. But
it was a dramatic end to a good day. Well, yeah. It was a good and bad day. Like we said, we had a lot of mishaps with this adventure.
Yeah, it was scary there for a while, though.
It was. We also really badly wanted to find the tuberculosis hospital. Now, the actual hospital isn't standing still, but the foundation is still there. And I was really, really excited to be able to find this. It was one of the top things that I really wanted to see. And of course, we weren't able to find it. We were looking at a map, and the problem was from the map, we couldn't really tell like the distance. And for some reason, I thought it was down this different road. So we decided to drive down this dirt road, and we didn't have any cell phone service either, so I couldn't turn on the GPS.
Yeah, there was like no service there whatsoever. So if you ever do go there, try not to get lost, because I don't mean to get you sidetracked, but there was so many roads in the area of the prison camp, all dirt roads. There was no street signs, and again, there was no service, so you couldn't even use your GPS. So just be very careful if you ever go in there.
Yeah, you can really easily get lost. We almost got lost. Luckily, we were able to find our way back out, but we ended up driving a ways down this path, and then I found this opening, and I don't know why I was so convinced that the hospital was going to be down there, because it was the first opening that we came to after driving down this long dirt road. So we got out and we trekked through, and again, it was so hot. The bugs were so bad. That's how I ended up with 2 other ticks crawling on my pant leg. And we followed this trail in all the way down, and I was looking everywhere. It was so overgrown, I couldn't see anything, but I followed the path all the way down, and we didn't see anything. So we were really disappointed at this point, and we were kind of just not over it, but we knew that we couldn't take much more mosquito bites at this point.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew that was the end, because that was the last place that we tried to find. So we knew we had to give it up at that point. So I was really, really disappointed at the time that we didn't find that.
Yeah, and it turns out that the hospital was actually right under our nose, and we didn't even know where the hospital was. One of our subscribers actually pointed it out to us in the comments of the video. He said that the hospital, the foundation, was right. It's right at the beginning of where the prison camp entrance is. It's right near solitary confinement, right?
Yeah, it's all in a little circle over there, where we were, where the old dairy farm was. It was right over there. If we had just walked maybe a little bit to the left, I think we would have found it. But the problem with going into the summer in places is that it's so overgrown. It's really hard to find things unless they're standing structures.
Right. Actually, if you watch the video, there's I think within the first 3 minutes of the video, there's actually a still picture that I took of Heather, and she's actually pointing to the solitary confinement building. Right behind her is where the hospital was. Like we said, we didn't know that at the time, but right behind her is where the foundation was.
Yeah, literally right under our noses. So I was really disappointed about that, but we're definitely going to make a plan to go back anyways, but this time it's going to be in the winter. For more reasons than one.
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
bugs, no vegetation, so we can actually see all of the foundations. Because next time we go back, I think that we should do a little bit of paranormal investigation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think we need to do a little more of the investigation deeper.
Because for the fact that we were only there doing an EVP, you did one EVP. You were in there for no more than a couple minutes, and we got that amazing Class A EVP. I can only imagine what we would capture if we did a full investigation there.
Yeah, and again, folks, the EVP was so clear. Again, I can't stress this point enough to you. Go back, watch the video, check it out. The EVP, Class A EVP, clear as day, get out. It gives me goosebumps. I actually got goosebumps just telling the story right now. We're also really glad that we had the old photos from the prison camp, and a huge shout out and thank you to the Rutland Land Conservancy, that's part of the Historical Society, for helping us out with those.
Yeah, it really makes a huge difference, I feel like, when you're looking at something and you can see what it looked like before and what it looks like now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of the intrigue with us for Abandoned. It's just so amazing what happens over times to these places, and, the natural beauty and decay and everything that happens. And we get really excited if we have an opportunity to be able to show people before and after.
Here's the thing. Everybody can show you abandoned places and places that are just not in use anymore. But I want to know the story. And again, that's where we come in. Explore New England, that's what we do. We give you the history. We tell you the entire story of these places. It isn't just an abandoned place and, oh, wow, look, there's nothing here anymore. That's cool and all.
I was just going to say, don't get us wrong, we love that.
Yeah, we love it, but, these places that have so much history like the prison camp or like Medfield State Hospital, so on and so forth. Those are the places that interest us the most because that is where the history is at.
Exactly. Like abandoned houses and everything, we find the beauty in them and we would absolutely explore them. Would we make a video on it? Most likely not.
No.
Because we wouldn't really know the history of it. And for us, the main joy to make our videos is to bring you history as well as seeing the places.
Yeah, because again, we like to show people New England like they've never seen it before.
That's another reason why we were excited to do so many different things on our channel as well. When we first started out, we really sat down and talked about what did we want our channel to be. And the main thing that we had said is we don't want it to be just one thing.
No.
We don't want it to be just abandoned or just haunted or just one particular thing. We want to show everything that interests us. So that might be something that's abandoned that has history. It might be a roadside attraction. It might be a really cool shop that we want to feature, like an obscure shop or something. We enjoy the fact that we never know where we're going to take you with your videos and you never know what you're going to see.
I was just going to say, and that's the greatest thing of it all. You see a video from us, you don't know what to expect. What's coming next? Sometimes we don't even know. Stay tuned because we got some great stuff coming up as well. So that's pretty much all that happened at the Rutland Prison Camp. Again, we had to condense everything into, I forget how long the video is. I think it's like 8 minutes or 7 minutes, something like that. But again, you never know what goes into these videos unless you're actually there filming it. So we appreciate you listening to us as we take you down memory lane and take you a little bit behind the scenes of what went on at the Rutland Prison Camp. It was definitely a fun location. We can't wait to go back. Again, as Heather said, we're definitely going to go back in the wintertime. No more summertime for that place.
Now, if there's any place that any of you know about or you've heard about and you really want to see it and know the history about it, please feel free to contact us.
Yeah, definitely.
We have an email, explorenewengland@yahoo.com. You can contact us on Facebook or just leave something in the comments. We're more than happy to hear about places that we may not know about, and we'd be thrilled to be able to go to a place that someone was interested in seeing and show it to them. I would actually really like to tell the story about the video that we were supposed to make, but we never actually got to make.
Oh, the train story.
Yeah, so we were really, really disappointed that this didn't end up turning into an episode. So we had our heart set. We wanted to go. There was an abandoned train car. It was in New Hampshire. Now, a lot of people might have know about it because they've seen it on other videos and everything. It's pretty popular, this spot. So we had done our research on it. We figured out where it was, a little bit of the history on it, and we were all ready to go make an episode on it. So right from the very beginning, it was really weird, everything that happened that day.
Yeah, it was very, very strange.
So I'll just start from the beginning and I'll just try to tell you the chain of events of how it went down. So anytime before we go somewhere abandoned, we're always a little bit apprehensive because we don't know what to expect, if you're going to run into other people there, hazardous things that have happened. I also heard before a lot of different people saying that there was a black bear that liked to hang out around this train car. So that made me a little bit nervous as well. So we had just finished up driving down the Kangamangas Highway, and we decided to put it into the GPS to head over to the train. I set it in the GPS. It started to take us on our way. So we got off the Kangamangas, and I think we had taken a left and then another left. And then all of a sudden, the GPS started to reroute us. It said rerouting, and I didn't touch anything. The phone was just sitting there. No one had touched it. And it turned us back around. And before we knew it, we were heading back onto the Kangamangas.
Now, it was our first time going to the location of the train. We weren't even sure if the GPS was taking us back into a circle. We didn't know until, again, like Heather said, until we were just about to get back on the Kangamangas. And we were like, why did the GPS just totally reroute us to go back around? So, we were driving for like 30 minutes before we realized, hey, we're heading back in the same direction we just came from.
Yeah, it took us a ways down before it said rerouting. And then that's when it started to head us back until we realized.
Right.
So that's when I actually checked down on the phone. And again, I hadn't touched the phone at all. It was just sitting there with the GPS on. And I checked it. All of a sudden now the address that was in there for us to go to was the Kangamangas. How crazy is that? We had just come from the Kangamangas and I put it in the GPS to take us to this train. So immediately we both looked at each other and said, is this a sign? Are we not supposed to be here? Like, how weird is it that the GPS tried to reroute us back and it took us an extra 25 minutes out of our way before we even got there?
But again, we figured, all right, whatever happened with the phone happened. Let's try putting in the address for the train again, and let's head there again.
And we kept a very close eye on it to make sure it was actually taking us to the train. I was
Yeah.
watching it very closely. So this time we made it to the train. We found the road. We found the spot where we were going to park. We were just about to go to walk in. Now there's a little opening where you can go to walk onto the train track. This is really interesting. Do you want to tell them what happened?
With weird paranormal situations, sometimes you don't know it's paranormal until after the fact, until after a situation happens, and then it's almost like the paranormal is almost like piecing together the puzzle backwards. And some people that's involved in the paranormal will know what I'm talking about. Other people might say you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's kind of like what it is for paranormal stuff. So again, with the phone or with the GPS taking us, rerouting us back in the other direction, that was weird in and of itself. When we got there to the train, like Heather said, we parked the car. As we were getting closer to the train tracks, now the wind wasn't blowing, nothing. I mean, it was actually very eerily still, the air. So there was no tree branches moving, nothing. Heather and I were walking to the train track, and we were looking down. All of a sudden I heard like a scuffle noise. Now, it had just snowed out, so there was a little bit of snow on the ground. Not much, but there was a little bit. And some leaves. So we heard like a scuffling sound in the leaves, and all of a sudden I just saw one branch moving on a tree that was like maybe about 5 feet in front of us. Now, from the time that we heard the scuffle in the leaves to the time that I saw the branch moving was literally 2 seconds, maybe, half a second. No animals were running away. There was no squirrels. There were no birds, nothing. So it was just very strange. It was almost like somebody was walking in front of us, but we couldn't see them.
Yeah, it really was a weird circumstance. It happened, like you said, within seconds.
Yeah, it was almost like something was trying to take our attention away from the train, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I would say, because of now that happening and then that again. It wasn't until the end that we put it all together. We walked through there, we talked about it, how strange that was. So we're on the tracks and we see the train. We're so excited. We actually had the footage of us walking up to the train, talking about how excited we were that we were seeing it. And right as we were about to get close to the train, we hear a voice yelling at us. Hey, get back here. You can't be over there. And we turn around and it's the cops. Here's another really weird thing that happened. When we turned around, I turned around immediately and looked. I saw 2 officers standing there. I remember saying, because we actually went back and watched the footage because we still had the camera going, and you were up a little ways ahead of me and you said, what is that? I said, the cops are here. Cops, multiple, 2 police officers.
When I had turned around, which was right after Heather turned around, I saw the police officer. Just 1 police officer. Heather saw 2 police. I only saw 1. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, the police officer just called us back. He doesn't want us over there. So I said, come on, let's head back to see what he wants. So we start heading back, and we finally, we meet up with the police officer who's on the ledge of the train tracks. Anyway, he just says, you guys are not supposed to be here. It's not safe to walk on the train tracks. What are you guys doing here? Anyway, we told them that, we were exploring New England and we were, going to be doing some filming. There's one thing that I'll say about, that place over there. They don't want anybody on those train tracks. They don't want anybody near that train, for safety reasons too. I'm not sure how many trains run those tracks over there, but the abandoned train that sits, right there in that same area, they don't want nobody. I don't know why they don't just move it out of the area. Regardless, it's there. But they don't want nobody going over there. So they didn't care who we were. They didn't care what we were doing. He just wanted us out of there.
Yeah, so the strange thing is, too, is there was actually never a second cop there.
No, there wasn't.
There was only the one. And I only saw that second cop standing next to him for a split second when I had first turned around. And I know that he wouldn't have had time to disappear by the time that I looked back again. And I'm sure if he was there, if there really was, he would have been out in the parking lot with the other police officer.
Yeah, of course. The cops just don't say, okay, I'm going to take off. You take care of these guys.
Yeah, so I found that really, really strange. So the whole chain of events truly led us to believe that for whatever reason, we were not supposed to be on that train car that day.
And who knows? There might have been a bear there or something. Who knows? Maybe some homeless people were there, some other dangerous people. And that's just the way fate worked it, where, it was keeping us safe from whatever was over there. So first the GPS rerouted us. Okay, we disregarded that, not knowing what it was trying to do. Second time is when we got there, we saw the tree limb moving for whatever reason. Again, you don't think these things are paranormal, so you kind of just put them out of your mind. You just think it's okay, whatever, the GPS is broke. Or, okay, there must have been a gust of wind, I just didn't feel it. And then the third thing was the police officers that Heather saw. I only saw 1. So that was 3 things that was keeping us away from that train that day.
Yeah, we were extremely disappointed that we did not get to film it. I had my heart set on it. I had done so much research on it, to find out the history of everything. And I had seen pictures. So it was a real disappointment that we didn't get to do it. But that's something that happens. You never know when we go to a place if we're going to be able to actually make a video of it.
Right.
The only thing that made up for it was, I remember we were driving home. I was really, really upset. And I was trying to get over the fact that we didn't get to film it, because the fact that it was right there and I could see it, it was even more intense, the desire to just go and explore it and film it.
Yeah, definitely it was.
I feel like it would have been better if we got stopped before we even got on the tracks, before I even got to see that train, because I had train fever. But on the way home, I was really upset. But that is when we saw those amazing moose, remember?
That's when we saw the moose, yeah.
Yeah, we saw the mom with her 2 babies. So that was amazing, because our whole trip in New Hampshire, we hadn't got to see any. That was the first time we got to see the moose out there. And it was the most beautiful backdrop. It was right around sunset. The mountains were all around us, and we got to see that beautiful sight and capture it. And that,
it was beautiful. It was just like what you see in the movies, only better.
So we said, you know what? Maybe we weren't supposed to be on the train, but we got something more beautiful in return.
So it's very strange how things work, you know. Life is very strange, and certain circumstances that you can't explain. I guess that's why they call it the unexplained, because these things happen and you just don't know why. But there's always a greater reason why they happen. So unfortunately, we couldn't film the train that day when we went, but who knows, maybe one day.
Yeah, we believe it was for the best. Whatever reason, something was telling us we weren't supposed to be there, and every effort was taken to make sure that we weren't. I also want to give, if there's one piece of advice that I would give about if you're ever interested in maybe going to explore abandoned places, please just be very careful. A lot of times you don't know what's inside of there, and honestly, people are more scary than ghosts, than inhuman spirits.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really watch out. You know, I heard a story one time, there was a building that people were actually hiding out in and robbing people of their cameras, their paranormal equipment, because they knew that it was a hot spot. So please make sure that you're very, very careful and you're cautious if you're going into these places.
Yeah, or if you do, go with a group of people. Don't just, go in by yourself, because, again, anything can happen. All right, I think that's going to wrap up the second edition of the Explore New England podcast. But before we go, I think, since Thanksgiving is tomorrow, I think we should tell everyone what we're thankful for.
Absolutely. Just to mention a few, there's so many things, but number one would be, of course, family, our health, and absolutely each other.
Absolutely.
Let us know in the comments below what you guys are most thankful for.
And don't forget, everyone, make sure you check out our Facebook page if you haven't done so already. Like the page. And also, if you haven't already, definitely make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, Explore New England. Check out our back catalog of videos, and make sure you tap the bell so you can get notified of all of our future videos. And like we said before, we got some really cool, fun stuff coming up. So you definitely want to make sure that you're a subscriber.
So we truly wish you from the bottom of our hearts a very happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
We hope it's filled with love, family, joy, and lots of pumpkin pie. So make sure you guys enjoy yourselves.
And turkey and mashed potatoes.
Turkey and mashed potatoes. We're not going to have any lobster, no water bugs, but just stick with the traditional items. At least ours will be all the traditional items.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
No. So we really appreciate you guys, again, coming along with us, following us on our adventures. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. We got to tell you some of the funny stories that happened to us, and we'll be back with more real soon.
Thanks a lot, everyone. God bless. We'll see you next time.